When a narcissistic husband wants to control his wife, he rarely comes right out and says it. He doesn't walk in the room and announce, "I'm gonna run your life." That would be too obvious, too easy to resist. Instead, he wraps control in soft words that sound like love. He says things like, "I just want to keep you safe," or "I'm only looking out for you," or "I know what's best for you." And at first, that can sound comforting. Who doesn't want to be cared for? Who doesn't want a husband who looks out for her? But slowly, carefully, he shifts the boundary. What started as love begins to feel like limitation. It begins small. He says, "Why don't you wear this instead of that?" It sounds like a suggestion, but it's actually a test. And when she changes her clothes to please him, he learns something. He can shape her choices. Later, it's not just what she wears, it's where she goes. He'll say, "I don't really like you hanging out with her. She's a bad influence." At first, she may agree because she wants peace. But one by one, her friendships shrink, her world becomes smaller, and without realizing it, she finds herself isolated. That isolation is exactly what he wants, because the fewer people she has, the easier she is to control. And here's the tricky part. He convinces her that his control is actually love. He'll say, "If I didn't care, I wouldn't worry." He frames every demand as protection. "I don't want you working late because I care about your health. I don't like that dress because I respect you too much. I don't want you going out without me because I don't trust other men." To someone looking in, those words might sound sweet, but to the wife who lives under them, they feel heavy, because she starts to realize every decision she makes has to pass through his filter first. Over time, she begins to second-guess herself. Before she says yes to lunch with a friend, she thinks, will he get upset? Before she buys something small for herself, she wonders, will he think this is wasteful? Before she speaks her mind, she questions, will he twist my words against me? That's what control does. It teaches her to police herself before he even has to. She becomes smaller, quieter, more cautious, not because she wants to, but because she feels she has to. And when she does try to push back, the control doubles down. If she says, "I don't like you telling me what to wear," he'll answer, "Why are you so defensive? I'm just trying to help." If she says, "I want to see my friends," he'll answer, "Why do you need them? Am I not enough for you?" Notice the trick, he shifts the blame onto her. Now she's not just disagreeing, she's ungrateful, she's disrespectful, she's making a big deal out of nothing. And after a while, she starts to wonder if maybe he's right, maybe she is being dramatic, maybe she should just give in. That's how control works. It wears you down until you can't even see it anymore. The most dangerous part of this control is how normal it can look from the outside. To friends, he might appear as the protective husband, the caring partner who just worries a lot. But behind closed doors, she feels the weight of decisions she doesn't get to make. It's not obvious chains holding her down, it's invisible strings, pulled slowly and carefully until she's not moving freely anymore. And here's what makes it so devastating. She may confuse control with love. She may think, must care about me so much if he's always this involved. But the truth is, love doesn't limit, it frees. Love doesn't shrink your world, it expands it. A healthy husband encourages his wife to shine, to grow, to become her best self. A narcissistic husband does the opposite. He clips her wings and calls it protection. He shuts the door and calls it safety. He silences her and calls it respect. Over time, this disguised control erodes her sense of identity. She forgets who she was before the marriage. She can't remember the last time she made a choice without thinking of his reaction. And when she does think back, she might feel a pang of grief because she remembers a version of herself that was freer, louder, brighter, a version that feels lost now. That's what a narcissistic husband's control does. It doesn't just restrict her life, it reshapes her entire sense of self. And the saddest part, many women living in this dynamic think it's normal. They think this is just marriage. This is just how husbands are. But no, this isn't normal. This isn't care. This isn't love. This is control wrapped in the language of concern. And the moment you recognize it for what it is, you start to take back your power. Because here's the truth, a man who truly loves his wife doesn't need to control her. He trusts her. He respects her choices. He knows her independence doesn't threaten him. It honors him. And until a woman sees the difference between real care and disguised control, she may stay trapped in a relationship that feels like love but functions like a cage. Criticism in a marriage isn't always loud. It doesn't always come in the form of shouting or harsh insults. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, disguised as advice or even humor. A narcissistic husband uses this kind of criticism like a drip of water on stone, not painful at first, but over time it erodes his wife's confidence until she barely recognizes herself. He doesn't lift her up, he chips away at her, little by little, moment by moment. It can start with something as small as how she looks. Maybe she puts on a dress and feels beautiful, and instead of saying, "You look amazing," he says, "Are you really going to wear that?" He doesn't have to say more. That single question plants doubt in her mind. Now she's wondering if she looks bad, if she should change, if she even has good taste at all. It's never just a dress, it's her judgment. It's her ability to trust herself. Later, it might shift to her abilities. She makes dinner, and he'll say, "It's okay, but you should have used less salt." She offers an idea, and he says, "That's not gonna work. You don't understand how these things go." She tries to share her feelings, and he says, "You're overreacting again?" Each comment by itself doesn't look like much, but together they create a pattern, and the pattern sends one clear message: you're not enough. Not smart enough, not talented enough, not thoughtful enough, not worthy enough. Over time, this constant criticism becomes the soundtrack of her life. She wakes up bracing for it. She hesitates before she speaks, worried about what he'll say. She questions her own decisions because she's learned that whatever she chooses will somehow be wrong. And the saddest part is that she starts to believe him. She starts to accept his voice as her truth. If he says she's forgetful, she begins to call herself forgetful. If he says she's selfish, she begins to feel guilty for wanting anything. His criticism doesn't just stay in the room. It moves into her mind and it lives there rent-free. And when she does pushback, when she tries to defend herself, the criticism only shifts shape. Maybe he laughs at her. "You're too sensitive, can't you take a joke?" Maybe he raises his eyebrows and shakes his head, letting silence do the work. Maybe he flips it back on her. "I wouldn't have to say these things if you didn't mess up so much." Notice what's happening here. The criticism becomes her fault. He criticizes, but somehow she's the one to blame for being criticized. It's a trap she can't win. What makes this criticism especially cruel is how invisible it is to others. In public, he might compliment her. He might tell people how amazing she is, how lucky he feels. Everyone thinks he's supportive, even charming. But behind closed doors, the compliments disappear, and all that's left is the steady rain of negativity. And because no one else sees it, she feels isolated. She thinks, maybe it really is just me. Maybe he's right, and I'm the problem. That isolation makes her quieter, weaker, easier to control. You see, criticism from a narcissistic husband isn't about helping her improve. It's about shrinking her down. It's about making sure she never feels secure enough to stand tall, never confident enough to challenge him, never strong enough to leave. It's strategic. It's a slow dismantling of her spirit so that in the end, she doubts her worth so deeply that she clings to him for validation, even though he's the one withholding it. And here's the most painful part. Sometimes she starts working even harder to please him, thinking, if I just do everything right, maybe the criticism will stop. So she cooks better, dresses differently, speaks more carefully, bends herself in every direction. But it never stops because it was never about her mistakes. It was always about his need to feel superior. The bar keeps moving, and no matter what she does, she can't reach it. That's the truth about constant criticism. It doesn't improve a marriage, it breaks it. It doesn't strengthen a wife, it weakens her. And over time, it doesn't just damage her relationship with him, it damages her relationship with herself. She stops seeing herself as capable, lovable, and worthy, and starts seeing herself through the distorted mirror he's held up to her. But the moment she can step back and recognize the pattern, the moment she can say, this isn't feedback, this isn't love, this is control through criticism, she starts to break free from it. Because real love doesn't tear you down, it builds you up. Real partnership isn't about pointing out flaws, it's about celebrating strengths. And until she sees that difference, she'll keep mistaking cruelty for care. That's why constant criticism is so dangerous in the hands of a narcissistic husband. It's not just words, it's not just jokes. It's a slow, daily erosion of a woman's confidence until she forgets how to stand tall. And if you've been living under that kind of criticism, you need to hear this: you are not the problem. His words are not the truth, and you are allowed to reclaim your voice, your confidence, and your worth, no matter how many years he spent trying to convince you otherwise. When you think about marriage, you think about love being given freely. A hug when you're sad, a smile when you walk into the room, a simple "I love you," just because that's what most people expect. Emotional connection that's natural, spontaneous, alive. But with a narcissistic husband, that connection isn't free. It's controlled. It's given when it serves him and withheld when it punishes you. And that's what makes it so powerful, because the very thing you need most love becomes the weapon he uses against you. It usually starts small. Maybe he's upset about something, and instead of telling you, he pulls away. He doesn't talk. He doesn't touch. He doesn't even look at you the same. Suddenly, the warmth in the room is gone, and you don't know why. You replay the day in your mind, searching for what you did wrong. Did I say something? Did I forget something? Did I disappoint him? And that's exactly the trap. The silence forces you to question yourself while he sits back enjoying the power of watching you chase his approval. Over time, the silence becomes his favorite punishment. He doesn't have to raise his voice. He doesn't have to slam doors. All he has to do is withhold his affection. No goodnight kiss, No, how was your day? No sign that you matter. And for a wife who loves deeply, that absence hurts more than anger ever could. Because anger at least isn't engagement. Silence is a void. It's loneliness while sitting right next to the person you married. And it's not just silence. Emotional withholding shows up in small ways too. You share good news, and instead of celebrating with you, he shrugs. You ask for comfort, and he says, "You're fine, stop being dramatic." You lean in for connection, and he leans away. It's the constant message that your needs don't matter, your feelings don't matter, your heart doesn't matter. And when that happens enough, you begin to stop reaching out at all. You stop asking. You stop expecting. You start to live like a guest in your own marriage. What makes this even more damaging is the unpredictability. Sometimes he's warm and affectionate. He'll hold your hand, tell you he loves you, act like the husband you always wanted him to be. And just when you start to feel secure again, he pulls it all back. The cycle keeps you off balance. You never know which version of him you're going to get. And so you work harder, bend further, try everything you can to make sure you get the version of him that loves you, not the one who freezes you out. That unpredictability is not an accident. It's conditioning. It's how he trains you to put all your energy into pleasing him, because you're desperate to avoid the coldness. And here's the cruelest part: he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows his affection is the one thing you crave most. He knows his approval feels like sunlight after a storm, and so he uses it like currency. He doles it out when it benefits him, and he locks it away when he wants to control you. It's not love anymore, it's leverage. The long-term effect of this is devastating. A wife living under emotional withholding starts to question her own worth. She begins to think, if I were more lovable, he wouldn't pull away. If I were better, he wouldn't go silent. If I were stronger, he wouldn't treat me like this. She blames herself for the very tactic he's using against her. And with every round of coldness, she loses a little more of her confidence, a little more of her joy, a little more of the belief that she deserves better. And yet, to the outside world, no one sees it. They see a husband who smiles in public, who says the right things, who maybe even posts the perfect family photos. No one knows that behind those pictures is a wife sitting alone on the couch, wondering what she did wrong this time. That's what makes emotional withholding so insidious. It leaves no bruises, no evidence, just an ache inside her that grows heavier by the day. But here's the truth: he doesn't want her to see love that is given as a reward is not love. Affection that disappears when you don't obey is not affection. Silence that punishes is not protection, it's control. And when you finally see that, you begin to realize something powerful. The problem isn't that you're unworthy of love. The problem is that he's incapable of giving it freely. Because real love doesn't vanish when you make a mistake. Real love doesn't retreat into silence to win an argument. Real love doesn't punish with coldness. Real love leans in, even when things are hard. Real love meets you where you are, not where it benefits the other person most. So if you've been living in that kind of withholding, hear me clearly. You are not asking for too much when you want warmth, when you want consistency, when you want love without conditions. You are only asking for the basics of what marriage should be. And if a husband cannot give that, the silence you feel is not your fault. It's his failure. Emotional withholding may look quiet, but it screams the loudest message of all: I will only give you love when you earn it. That's not marriage. That's manipulation. And you deserve so much more than that. Gaslighting is one of the cruelest tools a narcissistic husband uses because it doesn't just attack what you do. It attacks what you believe is real. It makes you question your memory, your perception, your feelings, even your sanity. And the more he uses it, the more power he has, because if you can't trust yourself, you have no choice but to rely on him. That's exactly how he wants it. It begins in small moments. Maybe you bring up something hurtful he said the night before, and he shakes his head and says, "That never happened?" Or you point out something he clearly promised to do, and he replies, "You must be remembering wrong." At first, you're confused. You think, "No, I know I heard him say that," but his certainty makes you pause, and the seed of doubt is planted. Then it grows. You walk away from conversations wondering if you're the crazy one. You start second-guessing every detail. When it happened, how it happened, if it happened at all. You replay it in your head, but the more you think, the more his version seems to press on you. And eventually you give in, not because you believe him, but because it's easier than fighting. That's gaslighting. It's not about truth, it's about exhaustion. It's about wearing you down until you surrender to his reality. And it's not just memories he denies, it's feelings too. You tell him, "That hurt me." And he says, "You're too sensitive." You say, "I feel ignored." And he says, "You're imagining things." You say, "I feel unloved." And he says, "You're being dramatic." Notice the pattern. He doesn't validate your feelings, he erases them. He makes you feel wrong for even having them. And after enough of those moments, you stop trusting your own emotions. You stop sharing what you feel because you know the answer will always be the same. You're overreacting. What makes this so dangerous is that it slowly rewrites your reality. You stop asking, is he lying? And you start asking, am I crazy? And once you start asking that question, he's already won, because now he doesn't need to control you directly. You'll do it for him. You'll silence yourself before he has to. You'll back down before the argument even begins. That's how gaslighting works. It's psychological warfare, and the battleground is your own mind. And here's what makes it worse from the outside. No one sees it. He can be charming in public, generous with friends, even playful at family gatherings. People think he's a great husband, and if you were to tell them what's happening, they might not believe you. Really? He doesn't seem that way at all. That disbelief only deepens your doubt. If no one else sees it, maybe it is just me. Maybe I'm the problem. That's the trap. Gaslighting doesn't just isolate you from your truth, it isolates you from others too. Over time, this denial takes a heavy toll. You begin to live in constant uncertainty. You hesitate before speaking because you're not sure if your memory is accurate. You replay conversations late at night, searching for proof you can't find. You feel anxious, unsettled, always bracing for the next moment when he'll twist reality again. And slowly you lose trust in yourself. You don't just lose confidence, you lose your compass. And when you've lost your compass, you're much easier to control. But let me tell you this, just because someone says something didn't happen doesn't mean it didn't. Just because someone tells you your feelings aren't valid doesn't mean they're not real. Gaslighting is not a reflection of your weakness, it's a reflection of his fear. Because the moment you trust your own reality again, the moment you believe your own voice, his power crumbles. That's why he fights so hard to keep you doubting, because your clarity is his greatest threat. Think about it, real love doesn't deny your feelings, it acknowledges them. Real love doesn't say, that never happened. Real love says, if you remember it that way, then let's talk about it. Real love doesn't erase your experience, it honors it, even when it disagrees. The fact that he refuses to do that tells you something powerful. This isn't love, it's control dressed up as certainty. So if you've been living under gaslighting, let me remind you, you're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not imagining things. What you feel is real. What you remember is real. Your experience is valid. And the moment you start standing on that truth, even quietly, even in your own mind, you take the first step toward breaking free from the fog he's worked so hard to trap you in. Gaslighting is designed to steal your trust in yourself. But here's the good news, no matter how long he's been doing it, that trust can be rebuilt. Piece by piece, memory by memory, moment by moment, you can reclaim your voice. And when you do, you'll realize something he never wanted you to see. You were never broken. You were simply convinced to doubt yourself. And once you stop doubting, you stop being controlled. One of the most confusing parts of being married to a narcissistic husband is the double life he lives. The man you see at home is not the man the world sees. Out in public, he's charming. He's warm, he's witty, he's attentive. People laugh at his jokes, admire the way he talks about his family, even say things like, wow, you're so lucky to have him. And in those moments, you almost wonder if they're right, because the version of him the world gets to see looks nothing like the version you face when the door closes. Behind closed doors, the charm fades. The compliments disappear. The patience evaporates. He becomes critical, cold, dismissive, sometimes even cruel. The man who just bragged about you to his friends now belittles you for the smallest mistake. The man who smiled at you in front of family now refuses to look at you in the car ride home. It's like watching him put on a mask when he leaves the house and then rip it off the moment you're alone again. And the hardest part is that no one else sees it but you. That's what makes this pattern so powerful, because when you try to tell someone about the private cruelty, they struggle to believe it. They think, him, really? He seems like such a good guy. They point to all the ways he shows up in public, the friendly conversations, the affectionate gestures, the way he speaks so highly of you, and they can't reconcile it with the story you're telling. And so you start to feel isolated. You start to wonder, if no one else sees it, maybe it really is me. Maybe I am the problem. This two-faced act serves him perfectly. In public, he builds his reputation. He makes sure everyone sees him as the devoted husband, the caring father, the trustworthy friend. That reputation becomes his shield. And in private, he knows he can get away with more, because who's going to believe you if you speak up? To the outside world, you'll look like the dramatic spouse, the ungrateful wife, the one making mountains out of molehills. He knows that, and he uses it. And so, you begin to carry the burden in silence. You sit at dinner parties, smiling through the pain, nodding as people compliment the marriage you know is breaking you inside. You go to family gatherings where he puts his arm around you and whispers sweet things, only to later punish you for something insignificant when you get home. The whiplash of living with two versions of the same man takes a toll on your mind. You never know which version you'll get, and you feel trapped between the man everyone loves and the man who slowly destroys you. This public charm and private cruelty isn't accidental. It's strategic. The charm keeps him admired. The cruelty keeps you controlled. It's a performance designed to keep the spotlight away from the truth. And when you live with it long enough, it starts to mess with your sense of reality. You ask yourself, am I exaggerating? If he can be so kind to others, maybe I'm the one who brings out the worst in him. Maybe if I tried harder, I'd get the version they see. That's the lie this double life plants inside you. The lie that his cruelty is somehow your fault. But let me tell you something important. Cruelty that hides behind charm is still cruelty. A man who treats the world with kindness but treats his wife with contempt is not a good man. He's just a skilled actor. And the fact that he can show kindness to others proves something he's capable of it, which means his choice to withhold it from you is intentional. That's not love. That's manipulation. Real love doesn't have two faces. Real love isn't reserved for strangers and withheld from your spouse. Real love doesn't shine in public but disappear in private. Real love is consistent. It's steady. It's the same whether there are cameras on you or no one watching at all. And if the man you're with can't show you the same kindness he shows to people he barely knows, that's not a flaw you need to fix in yourself. That's a truth you need to see about him. The saddest part is that many wives in this position begin to lose hope that anyone will ever believe them. They stay quiet, they endure, they hide their pain because they feel that speaking up will only make them look foolish. And that silence is exactly what he wants. Because as long as you stay silent, the mask stays intact. As long as you stay quiet, the world keeps praising him. And as long as the world keeps praising him, he feels untouchable. But here's the reality: masks always slip. Eventually, the cracks show. Maybe it's a cruel word he lets slip in front of someone. Maybe it's the exhaustion of living two lives catching up with him. Sooner or later, people start to notice the inconsistencies. But you don't have to wait for that moment to believe your own experience. You don't need the world's confirmation to know what you live with every day. The private version you see is just as real as the public one they admire, and it's the private version that reveals the truth. So if you're living with that painful divide, the charming man in public, the cruel man in private, let me say this clearly: you are not crazy. You are not imagining it. You are not the problem. His two-faced behavior is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of his deception. And the fact that no one else sees it doesn't make it less real. It just makes it harder. But harder doesn't mean impossible. And one day, whether the world sees it or not, you will. And when you do, that truth will set you free from the mask he's been hiding behind all along. A relationship with a narcissistic husband almost always follows a cycle, and that cycle is what keeps so many women trapped. It begins with the idealization stage. In the beginning, he puts you on a pedestal. You're the best thing that ever happened to him. He tells you you're perfect, you're everything he's ever wanted. He can't imagine his life without you. The love feels intense, overwhelming, even like something out of a movie. And for a while, it feels real. It feels like you finally found someone who sees you, who values you, who would do anything for you. That stage is intoxicating, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Because once he's convinced you of that perfect love, the next stage begins, the devaluation. Slowly, the compliments fade and the criticisms creep in. Suddenly, you're not perfect anymore. Suddenly, the little quirks he once said were cute are now annoying. The attention he used to give so freely is now harder to find. You start to wonder what changed. Was it something you did? Did you stop being good enough? You replay moments in your head, trying to figure out where you went wrong. But the truth is, you didn't go wrong. The cycle was designed this way. In the devaluation stage, he chips away at your confidence, your sense of worth, your belief that you're lovable. He starts comparing you to others, making you feel less than. He stops listening, stops showing up, stops caring in the ways he once did. And the cruelest part, he makes you believe the shift is your fault. He'll say things like, "You've changed," or "You don't make me feel the way you used to," as if the burden of keeping the love alive rests only on your shoulders. And because you're still holding on to that memory of the idealization stage, you believe him. You think, if I could just get back to the way I was, maybe he'd love me like before. That's the hook. That's why the cycle works. You remember what it felt like to be adored, and you're desperate to feel it again. So you try harder, you give more, you bend further. You do everything you can to win back the love that once felt endless. But no matter what you do, it's never enough, because the problem was never you. The problem is the cycle itself. And when he's drained you, when he's gotten all he can out of you, the discard begins. It may not be a literal discard. He doesn't always leave. Sometimes it's emotional. He checks out. He treats you like you're invisible. He withholds affection, refuses to engage, makes you feel like you no longer matter. Other times, it is literal. He pulls away completely, maybe even seeks someone new, leaving you broken and questioning why you weren't enough to keep him. The discard stage is brutal because it feels like complete abandonment, and yet the cruelest twist is that sometimes he comes back around. After discarding you, he might return with apologies, promises, and that same charm he used in the beginning. He may remind you of how good it once was, say he misses you, swear he'll change, and just like that, the cycle starts again. Idealize, devalue, discard, over and over until you're too exhausted to see straight. It's like being on a roller coaster you never agreed to ride with no way to get off. Living inside this cycle takes a massive toll. It conditions you to doubt yourself, to blame yourself, to crave the highs of the idealization stage while enduring the lows of devaluation and discard. It keeps you hooked because the memory of how good it once felt makes you believe it could be good again. You hold on to hope, but that hope is the very thing that chains you. And the longer you stay, the harder it is to see the pattern for what it is. But here's the truth, this cycle is not love. Real love doesn't put you on a pedestal just to tear you down. Real love doesn't make you feel like you're disposable. Real love doesn't come and go depending on how well you perform. Real love is steady, consistent, committed. What you're experiencing in that cycle is not love. It's manipulation designed to keep you trapped. And the most important thing to remember is this: the cycle will never end because you changed, or because you worked harder, or because you did everything right. The cycle ends when you see it for what it is and refuse to keep spinning in it. It ends when you realize that no matter how high the highs are in the beginning, they're only bait for the crushing lows that always follow. If you've been living in that cycle, I want you to hear this clearly: you are not the problem. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You were simply caught in a pattern designed to break you down and keep you small. And the fact that you can even recognize it now means you're stronger than you think. Because awareness is the first step toward freedom. And once you step back and name it, you'll never see it the same way again. The cycle of idealize, devalue, and discard is powerful, but it's not unbreakable. And the moment you decide you deserve more than being someone's temporary pedestal or someone's disposable afterthought, that's the moment the cycle loses its hold on you. Because real love isn't a cycle. Real love is a constant, and you deserve that kind of love. When you step back and look at everything we've talked about, the control, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the charm in public and cruelty in private, the endless cycle of love and rejection, you start to see the pattern for what it is. It's not a marriage built on love. It's not a relationship built on respect. It's a system designed to keep you small, to keep you doubting, and to keep you dependent. And here's the truth: the moment you recognize that pattern, the spell begins to break. Because the greatest power a narcissistic husband has is convincing you that you're the problem. That if you just changed a little more, gave a little more, endured a little more, things would get better. But the reality is, no matter how much you bend, it will never be enough for someone who only knows how to take. Real love doesn't make you question your worth. Real love doesn't silence your feelings. Real love doesn't cycle between idolizing you and discarding you. Real love shows up consistently through the highs and the lows. And if you're not experiencing that, then what you're living in is not love, it's control dressed up as devotion. So here's what I want you to remember: you are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not unworthy. You are not impossible to love. You are simply caught in a storm that was never yours to carry. And storms always pass. The choice to step out of that cycle, to reclaim your voice, to trust your own reality again, it's not easy, it's not quick, but it is possible. And the moment you start taking even the smallest steps, you're proving to yourself what he's tried so hard to make you forget: you are stronger than his control. You deserve more than survival. You deserve peace. You deserve joy. You deserve a love that lifts you, not one that breaks you down. And when you finally believe that, not just in your head, but in your heart, that's the moment you stop being controlled and you start being free.